Tonight on Oregon Field Guide, a look at a few of the unsung heroes who literally risk their lives every day for us.
He's the kind of country where people come out to get away from the law.
First, we journey into the rugged Wallowa backcountry, where only 3 state troopers are assigned to patrol over 3,500 square miles. Then we follow BPA linemen as they head into remote areas to climb massive towers for much-needed repair work to keep the electricity flowing. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Oregon Field Guide. I'm your host, Steve Amon. I'm sure most of us head to the backcountry to get away from it all. Unfortunately, poachers, illegal fishermen, and felons, well, they go there for the same reason. So it's up to the Oregon State Police backcountry patrols to keep them in check. But as you'll see, it's a mammoth task with very limited resources.
I'm Brad Ducker with State Police Fish and Wildlife Enforcement.
Right.
If you can do me a favor, just hold up your fishing license for me. I'll check with the binoculars.
Sure.
Great. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Oregon State Trooper Brad Duncan is on patrol for fishing violators, which can come as a surprise to a lot of people.
You guys have any fishing camp?
That's because Oregon is the only state other than Alaska where state police are in charge of enforcing all fish and game laws.
Base fine on that is $311.
The fine is steep, but with so few officers on patrol, most violators don't get caught. Only 3 troopers are employed full-time to fish and game enforcement in Wallowa County. And there's 3,500 square miles of backcountry to patrol.
It's such a vast county and vast area and rugged. This is very typical. An hour and a half drive just to get to an area that you want to focus on and you want to work on. Today, primarily, I'm looking for people still bear hunting and turkey hunting after the season's closed.
Trooper Mark Knapp often finds himself working solo, and out here, that's a risk in itself.
We don't have radio coverage half the time. We don't have backup. Just got to be real careful on going into certain places that you know are going to be problems. The best compliment we can get is when somebody looks at us and says, "Where in the heck did you come from?" If they don't expect to see us and they're surprised to see us, then we're doing something right.
In country where roads are so few, a vehicle can only cover so much territory. In Wallowa County, mountains and canyons dominate the landscape, and police often patrol the roadless countryside by foot, horseback, or even by snowmobile. Here, at the bottom of the steep cliff-lined Hell's Canyon, the only effective way to patrol is to get out on the river.
It's a great office environment, but a work trip is a work trip, and some people think we're on vacation, but it's a lot of work.
The Snake River through Hell's Canyon is nearly 100 miles long, much of it wild, scenic, and loaded with rapids. Brad's patrol vehicle of choice is a raft.
In general, a lot of people are surprised to see us, especially floating down on a raft. During salmon season, I take an inflatable kayak and I checked a salmon fisherman last year, and he told me that that wasn't fair, that I could sneak up on him in an inflatable kayak. He said that was cheating.
Sergeant Scott Moore heads up the Fish and Game Division in Wallowa County. He and Brad will spend anywhere from 2 to 5 days floating down the Snake, looking for any signs of illegal activity.
He's the kind of country where people come out to get away from the law, so we run into those type of folks that are hiding out, that have warrants for them, that type of thing. So there are, amongst the decent folks, criminals, scattered in.
It didn't take long to find evidence of a crime.
Somebody's stolen a piece off here. So what they'll do is they'll take pry bars, come in here with pry bars and try and pry that stuff off.
Thieves have recently raided this riverside archaeological site.
You look on places like eBay, you can see that there's a lot of a trade in those type of artifacts.
As you can tell by this depression here, the people have been digging and sifting and looking for different artifacts, spear points, arrowheads, those types of things.
What we're doing out here is protecting some of our archaeological treasures. Lots of them on the river have already been looted, but there's still a lot left that need protection.
state police out here are in some ways no different than police working on the highway. They never know what or who they'll come across on patrol. There's also exposure to extremes of heat and cold, as well as rattlesnakes, cactus, and of particular concern, massive rapids. Policing a river with Class 5 whitewater takes an entirely different kind of bravery in the line of duty.
They teach you this in police academy, how to handle this?
Not exactly.
If you take that wrong and you hit that wave, that would not be good.
The Snake River is running at 28,000 cubic feet per second. That's more than twice its normal summer flow.
We're going to run it right down through the middle. It's just a straight tongue shot and hang on toward the end.
This kind of police work isn't for everyone, but for Brad, there's no better job.
This was my goal ever since I was about 12 years old. My dad asked me what I wanted to do when I was older, and I told him I wanted to be a game warden. So here I am now. I did everything I could to achieve that goal.
The type of person that does this type of work is an individualist, somebody that can go out and function by themselves for a week at a time in the backcountry and work with a real diverse group of people. A lot of times we're in the field, these type of trips, 10 days a month. It is really hard on your family life. We have people that go back to patrol where they have a set schedule and a routine where they can have a family life.
The attraction is the Snake River itself. It's great scenery, and there's a good chance of seeing action.
This is pretty remote country, and folks come here to, they think they can get away with something. We have, besides the archaeological thieves, we also have people, doing marijuana grows. They come in by jet boat and walk up these draws and set up illegal gardens on Forest Service land.
Just need to check a fishing license real quick if we could.
Most patrol work is routine, checking for fire pans, littering, and fishing without a license. These are the traffic violations of the river world. But sometimes they encounter the unexpected, like this television crew taping a fishing show hosted by the TV personality Babe Winkleman. Famous TV host or not, everyone gets their license checked. The fishing done here was by the book.
Sturgeon must be released immediately, which means you can't even take it out of the water to take a picture of it. So we checked, make sure they had license, and also make sure they had barbless hooks. You guys catch any fish?
In a typical year, a single Fish and Game officer will issue several hundred citations and make many arrests for hunting, fishing, and trapping violations alone. But wildlife crime is only part of Scott and Brad's job. They also check in on the many unmanned but historic cabins along the river. Most cabins contain little more than a few relics, sometimes a few rattlesnakes.
Western timber rattler. It's a common sight. There's snakes all through here.
Other abandoned cabins tucked into side canyons have been used as hideouts by poachers.
You never know when you're going to run across that guy that's on the run from something.
One story stands out in the minds of all backcountry police. In 1980, a notorious poacher was living along the southeastern Oregon border with Idaho. When game wardens checked his remote backcountry camp, they were murdered. The poacher, Claude Dallas, escaped and went on the run for months before he was caught.
The Claude Dallas story, I think, changed probably modern wildlife law enforcement forever. It brought a lot of agencies into the 21st century and made them all police officers, where before they were the game wardens.
I got about 3 years worth of licenses in here.
And today most modern law enforcement, fish and wildlife agencies are as well armed, as well trained as any city police.
Pretty good chance you're going to run into a warrant quite often. So you just need to make sure you're watching everybody real carefully.
We've had a trooper shot this year that contacted a man in a state park. That the initial contact, it seemed pretty low key, and the trooper didn't suspect anything right off, and it developed into a bad situation.
My wife knows that I may not come home. I'm going on the snake for Hell's Canyon. I'll be back on Thursday. Well, there was a chance I may not come back.
In this cash-strapped state, adding more backcountry patrols is a long shot. It's a fact that criminals, poachers, illegal fishermen, and even felons know all too well.
Sometimes when we contact people, they say, I've never had my fishing license checked. So if people are telling you that, obviously we're not out here enough. And it's not that we're not making an effort to get out here, it's just we're short-handed as far as manpower.
There's not enough state fish and wildlife officers in Oregon to protect all the different natural resources, let alone the archaeological treasures that we have here in the state. I think seeing is really the answer to preventing a lot of different crime, and that's part of the reason for the patrol.
There are about 120 state police fish and wildlife officers in Oregon. Now that works out to about 1 for every 522,000 acres. It's a lot of land for one officer to cover. I've got a job description that sounds a lot like mine. You have to love the outdoors, have a positive attitude, and want to help your fellow Pacific Northwesterners. Now if that sounds good to you, we have just the adventurous job. But as Jim Newman shows us, you might not want to look down while you're working.
The physics of electrical power transmission routes enormous energy through narrow strands of aluminum and steel. Approach a power line, and the huge flow of electricity is audible, crackling along the hot wires from the substation to your toaster. This is the Keeler-Alston 500 kilovolt line from Hillsborough to Longview. Noisy and unsightly, attributes rendering such power lines mostly unwelcome in developed areas. Keeler-Alston traverses remote landscapes. No one complains about the line out here, but the rural setting encourages vandals.
There will be some heavy rigging involved, the potential for falling glass.
There's a problem at milepost 21 on this isolated stretch, and linemen have driven into the foothills to fix it. Someone with a shotgun blasted some of the glass insulators at this 100-foot tower, and they must be replaced. Without the insulators, the raging energy current here is theoretically unchecked. It could go anywhere.
And at that point, anyone touching that tower or in the near vicinity of that tower would be at potential risk of receiving a fatal shock. There's only two things in this world that really scare me, and that's height and electricity.
Bonneville Power Administration linemen earn about $31 an hour to face the risks. A dispatcher says the power to the line has been shut off and the repair work can start. But the first linemen up the tower aren't taking any chances.
One wrong move and zap. Electricity, it's not forgiving. It's there, it bites you, it grabs you, and it holds on to you.
Free climbing the steel lacing, the linemen grapple with cables and clamps as they deploy one essential precaution against stray juice. A complex grounding system, once in place, should minimize at least one serious threat. The cables are designed to route any electricity building on the line away from the crew. The cables will send any dangerous random current